Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Real Talks One podcast. Sorry about the previous podcast. There was some connectivity issue that I was seeing, so I chose better to just shut it down and start a new one. In this podcast, we are going to discuss about innovation, compare USA and India, and we'll use some live examples of some large-scale innovators that we have seen, and what are some of the factors that have led them to basically start these companies and be innovators and move forward. So let's start with Bill Gates. As we know, he is one of the key founders of Microsoft. Started in around 70, 80s time frame. And one thing to note that is Bill Gates was a student at Harvard. He dropped out of that course. So getting into Harvard already defines that he was intelligent and moneyed, because Harvard is a very expensive school, even from a US standard, and their selection rate is extremely competitive. So getting into Harvard itself states that you are of a higher intellect. Next, Bill Gates was from Seattle. He went to a very good private school, and in the US, anyone who doesn't have money cannot afford a private school, right? It's pretty expensive. And he went to one of the better ones actually. All the top people used to go to that kind of a school. uh, his parents actually, Bill Gates Senior actually was a senator in the U.S. Government, and even his mother was very well connected. In fact, the famous meeting that he had with IBM, where he was trying to sell the DOS, that meeting was basically helped by his mother, who made the introduction in IBM. So, what I'm trying to say here is that while Bill Gates was intelligent, he had the money, he was smart, hard worker, but he was very well connected. His parents were very good elites of Seattle. He went to a very good school, so he got very good friends like Polly Allen and things like that, that allowed him to take risks, because he knew that he had a backup plan, in the sense that if Microsoft didn't work out, he could always get another job, or he could go back to Harvard, or basically go back to some other school and then have another kind of a job. So, having come from a very privileged family, these are all the points of privilege actually, right? Had he been like a middle class person, which most of the Indians are, it would have been extremely difficult for them to first go to the US, attend Harvard, and drop it in between to start a company. It never happens. It's extremely rare. Even in the US, it is rare, but you still have certain examples, as I am going to illustrate throughout this podcast. This point remains here that he had a privilege. Same story goes for Jeff Bezos, who started out Amazon. His father actually gave him loan of 150K USD back in like early 90s. Think about it, right? Giving a loan of 150K directly from your dad, and that too, it was his not biological dad, but stepdad. Essentially, his mother married another person who gave him that loan to basically start out Amazon. And even before Amazon, he was already a PhD from Princeton, and he used to work for DE Shaw as a VP out there. So for Jeff Bezos to take such kind of a risk, he moved all the way from East Coast to Seattle with his wife and started out Amazon. Think about it, right? He was smart, of course. He was gifted in the sense like he was very hardworking person. He had that idea that I am going to start a book selling store online. So I give all that credit, but we should not forget the fact that his father gave him $150,000 back in 1990s. It was a very huge amount of money at that point of time. So unless he was moneyed or he had a privilege, he couldn't have done that. And he already knew, because of his degree and his background, he can always get into another job or go back to DE Shaw. Again, back in the day, DE Shaw is a very well run hedge fund, and at least back in the day, like early 90s, or even in early 2000s, D. Shaw used to give very high salaries. They used to hire top of the cream candidates actually. I know it because I also got an offer in Hyderabad back in the day in D. Shaw, and during that time, even though that offer was good, they were hiring me as a TL. I remember, but I already had an offer with Oracle, where I was hired as a development manager, so I chose that. But even as a TL, they were giving pretty competitive salary. So I can tell you that the interview experience with them was very, very good, and I can completely understand, like in early 90s and all, how premium that company would have been to go work for them. So again, the common theme here is that he was privileged, he had the money, he had the smarts, and he was able to take this big risk. Now you see the example of Mark Zuckerberg, right? Another thing is many of these people are Jewish, actually, of Jewish descent, and Jewish folks are a very small community, but they're extremely influential. They're extremely moneyed, and they help each other actually in the community. So you will see that a lot of Jews own the Hollywood, the tech industry, the financial industry. Now think about it: the big tech, even the small tech, right? The overall tech industry, the Hollywood, which is again a very big money generator. Tech is another money generator, and finance. Now, all three of them have a very big domination of Jews, and as I said, they basically support each other. They refer each other. They come together. So it's a very close knit community where they basically help each other out, and you scratch my back, I scratch my back. So that thing is also going on. So there is this Jew angle. Not every entrepreneur, etc., is a Jew, but I wanted to say at least some of these big shot names that I'm calling out are from the Jewish background actually. That's another factor. Now think about it. Mark Zuckerberg, right? He also went to Harvard. He also dropped out of Harvard. Again, coming from a privileged background, like getting into Harvard itself is extremely difficult because you have to have money to even get admission into such kind of a school. Having said that, it doesn't mean that you are not talented or you are not intelligent, because Harvard is no mean feat, right? It's not easy to get into Harvard. It's a very, very competitive school. So again, for Mark Zuckerberg also, was the same scenario. Now you see it's a kind of a pattern. Back in the day, Steve Jobs, who is considered as one of the fathers of innovation and building Apple, right? Same thing. He started Apple out of a garage of his parents. Think about it, right? Garage of his parents. It may seem like very simple thing, but how many people actually own a house to let alone have a garage? Right, even in India, a lot of people who has their own house do not have their own garage, because to have a garage means you have to have such a big house that you should have a place where you can create a garage where you can a car can basically be stored away. So even in the US, right, having a single family home, meaning you need to have a bungalow with a garage where you can basically start your company. So even there, it's pretty under clear that he was even also coming from a pretty well-to-do family, where he was able to take risks. Like Jeff Bezos has taken a lot of, I mean to say, Steve Jobs has taken a lot of risks, because he even went to India to Neem Karoi Baba. He made him famous actually. Came back, and though he did not go to very good schools, like he went to Reed College, he dropped out in Oregon, and then basically started his Apple. So I think this privilege thing is very common across the board. If you see all these key innovators who started their startups, who are now big name companies, so this part is extremely clear. This is not true for India, because most of the people in India are coming from middle class. They're very good to become employees, but as innovators, as entrepreneurs, there is a huge risk, right? Because we only know of handful of people who have become extremely successful. Today we are referring to their names, or we see their companies, whether it is Apple, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, etc. Right? But there are countless other thousands of companies that have not done well, or thousands or millions of innovations that went nowhere, and hence we never even know their authors or inventors, right? So we have to understand that whenever a country or a company becomes successful, sometimes lot of privilege is behind them. I'm not saying privilege alone is capable of you to go and rise higher, or build startups, or build multi-million dollar companies, but I'm saying it is one of the necessary condition. There could be examples which are rags to riches story, but they're extremely rare. because I wanted to make sure that everybody understands. In the US, when these people have risen high, they all came from privileged background. They were not people who were extremely dirt poor, who rope in their way from scratch to all the way to the up, etc. They were already somewhere in their life. It's very important. If I were to give example from an Indian context, in India, most of the times people do not even have uh, basic things available. So Akshat Rastogi ji says, I'm reading the comment, India mein shadi nahi hogi if you fail. That's very, very true. That risk appetite in India is extremely curtailed because everybody wants to take a straight path, that go to the school, get good grades, get a BTech, get an MBA, or go become a lawyer or become a CA, or become a doctor, join a good firm, make some money. As soon as you start hitting towards 30, make sure you marry a good person, take a lot of dowry, and basically you are happily living ever after. Have kids, have their marriages, and the cycle continues to repeat, right? In this process, the innovative mindset, the thought to basically try different things, all gets buried down, right? Because most of the people just want a straightforward path. They don't want to take risks, because risk means you may be successful, you may not be successful. And if startups, if we look at startups, 90% of them actually fail, right? And there is another angle to it. So let me read another comment from A2K Codes. Sir, I was planning for a PhD in the USA, but after hearing such news of F1 visa, it makes me think twice. Any suggestion would be helpful. See, right now, it's very unpredictable. As you know, Trump is still going to be there for the next 3 years, so we don't know what kind of havoc he can create. It is just his first year where he's created a lot of uncertainty for a lot of people. So, at least for now, I would advise people to be very, very careful if they are going for masters or PhD in the USA. Generally, I wouldn't have said that, because it's a great way to experience a different culture, make some money while you are there. But right now, it could be very, very risky. At least in the time Trump is there, and he continues to create U-turns and rights executive orders left, right, and center. But back to the topic at hand, right? Let me just read one more comment before I do that. Blazy, this cycle of life will soon be broken by AI in just coming years, I feel. You're very right. I have made multiple talks and podcasts on the AI, and right now AI is seemingly going to create a lot of existential threat for a lot of jobs that are out there, for a lot of people, actually, including myself. I'm not going to say that I'm going to be some wizard that I know all the answers, but by the feels of it, by the looks of it, and how much progress we have already made, and the kind of impact it is already having on the jobs in the foreseeable future, I think it will create a lot of uncertainty and a lot of job losses, and big level devastation actually is going to happen. I will encourage all of you to check out some of the podcasts that I have already made around AI and the job losses and uncertainty, to check it out. Um, Point C is very simple, that in India it's extremely difficult. Also, for a reason I want to quote out is, US dollar has always been a very, very strong currency, and US is the only country that is able to print this dollar as much as you want. So at least you would see in the Silicon Valley, uh, people seem to be plush with funds. They get a lot of VC money. Even when they raise debt, debt is sometimes even they are able to get it at 0% or 0.5 or 1% interest, which is nowhere seen across the world. Actually, it's unique to US. So VC money, which is like equity based funding, and even the debt is extremely cheap. So even this allowed a lot of people to take a lot of risks because debt was so cheap. And bankruptcy laws in the US are also very favorable for the business, insolvency, bankruptcy, and things like that. In India, the bankruptcy and the insolvency code has just recently come into effect. I think in the last 2, 3, 4 years, when Modi government brought it out. But even then, it is not as robust as the one that is in the US. So they call it as Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the US, wherein even if a company fails, there is no personal liability of the owner or the founder. It's just the company's liability. So they can fail and then they can start over all over again. So those kind of things are very robust in the US market that allow people to take a lot of risks. And then I think I have to give it credit where it is due, that many people in the US are free thinkers. What means that they are not bound by dogma or culture or tradition. They think, they do not limit themselves with boundaries of culture or dogma, etc. That is why you would see a lot of people in the US are atheist. They do not follow any specific religion, or at least even not atheists. There, many of them are agnostics. What it does is that it basically rejects any kind of tradition, culture, etc. Or rather, I would say they are agnostic to any of the culture, religions, etc. Neither they reject it, neither they accept it. This way, their brain power completely opens up, because now they are no longer confined to a specific thought process. Like, if I follow Islam, then I have a certain way of thinking. How do I have to pray? What I have to eat? What I don't have to eat, etc. If I follow Orthodox Christianity, then again I have to live a certain way, things like that. Similarly, if I am Buddhist, then I have to do a certain way. If I am a Sikh, I have to do a certain way. Hinduism, on the other hand, also kind of is a kind of a dogma. It has its traditions and cultures, but at least given the other kind of religions that I have studied, it seems to be much more innovative, much more open in that respect, actually. But nonetheless, agnostic, I think, is still better because it doesn't restrict you to limit your thought to a certain boundaries, right? It opens up your mind, and this free thinking is the underpinning of any kind of innovation, any kind of discovery, right? So people in the West or in the US are able to do these kind of things much more easily and openly than compared with Indians or people back here in India. Again, the VC funding, availability of loans at a very cheap rate is available in the US as opposed to India. So again, we lack that kind of thing as well. And US has been innovative for like decades and decades, right? I mean, Silicon Valley term was coined in the days of Intel, which is like I'm talking about when they came out with transistors and things along those lines. Electronic transistors. Earlier, it used to be in that we like we used to call tubes. Like transistors were like analog transistors. Then they went on to digital transistors. Analog transistors were mostly done in the like glass tube and all, right? So one of the founders, fathers of Intel, were the ones who invented those kind of things back in Santa Clara Valley, which is what came to be known as Silicon Valley, because that's where all the chips and all those things were being designed. So in the US back in 1950s, etc., also they were laying the foundation store of like internet revolution or IT revolution or tech revolution, right? IBM is like over 100 years old company, so they were building mainframes and all those kind of computers or punch card readers back like 80, 100 years ago as well. So, uh, so technologically, also US has been advanced historically. There is an abundance of money, VC money available to start startups, to give funding to innovators. Even the universities in the US promote innovation, starting up. So, especially like people from Harvard, MIT, Stanford, primarily, you will see so many people while they're still studying, they will basically incubate a startup. Only now, from the last, I would say, a decade or so, uh, IITs have started doing that. Like I know there is a industry transfer forum at IIT Delhi. Similarly, you have it at like Bombay, Chennai, Kharagpur, everywhere. But it's still not that robust. Actually, what you see in a Stanford or Harvard or MIT, right? So these are some of the differences. So one set of differences are more ecosystem differences, that availability of capital, debt available at a very low interest rates, um, then equity based funding through VCs. So those are like more like an ecosystem plays. Then the general culture in US is like more independent, more risk taking, more free thinking, that allows you to experiment, try different things. And same with the experiment with their marriages also, right? I mean, it has both its pros and cons. Like people can hardly have a stable marriage. 50% of the marriages result in divorces. So even that kind of thing happens because everybody is a free thinker, so they don't want to get restricted into like a contract of marriage, and they want to still be open, have their options open. So if you have so many options open, human mind like can wander anywhere, right? And it results in divorce. So that is also very high in the US as opposed to India. But fact of the matter is that even with all those environmental factors, ecosystem, etc., somebody has to take charge. Somebody has to seize the opportunity and jump at it. So whether it is Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, all these people jumped at the opportunity. So they were intelligent, they were hardworking, they saw the opportunity, they wanted to do something about the opportunity, and they came from a privileged background. So it's very important that we should understand all the underpinnings, right? Uh, Now that I, even though my mindset is still middle class, but for my kids, I think I can give them that cushion that they don't have to worry about that. Okay, unless we earn something or unless I work somewhere, how will I lead my life, or where will I get my second meal or third meal, etc. uh, I can say this now because I have that financial security in my mind, so that my kids don't have to go through the same struggles that I personally had to go or my wife had to go through, right? I am able to say that because now I have reached a certain stage, I have reached a certain lifestyle after working for so many years, right? And I can completely see how my mindset has shifted from what I was, let's say, 2025, or when I was studying, right? So it has completely shifted. And that is because I do have financial security. I do see that it gives me a lot of ease of mind where I don't have to worry about like where does my meal come from, or how will I give rent, or how do I do the expenses, etc. So all those things are taken care of now. So uh, if my kids want to take a risk, they want to try different things, and if they even fail, I can support them, right? A lot of people are unable to do those kind of risk, etc., because they know they don't have that much of free money to be able to do that. And again, having said that, I want to point out that intelligence, hard work, smarts, it's a given. So I'm not saying that if you don't even have those, then still go ahead and basically start building a startup or try to go after an innovation and things like that. That's not going to happen. But I just wanted to make sure that many people say that just smart work and hard work and will create innovation is a very very wrong idea. You need to have a basic level of privilege. Your basics should be covered. Only then you can think freely. If you are all going to keep struggling for earning your money to get food, shelter, security, then you will never even get time to even think about innovation or discoveries or things like that. So that's all from my side. I hope you enjoyed this session, and this will give you insights into if you want to do your own startups, or if you want to be an innovator, or if you have people who are looking to do that. At least you can bring some realistic perspective to them. If you like this podcast, please do like it, share it, and subscribe it. And do let me know if there is any other thoughts that you have, or if you have been innovative, if you have any other thoughts, do comment here as well. And do let me know if there is any other topic that you have in mind that you would like to cover. I'll be more than happy to do that. Let me just read last comment from Akshat Rastogi. He is, I think, supporting Blaze comment. Padhai, stable job, shadi, kid, this is going to be disrupted. We need to have multiple sources of income now. Very solid point, Akshat Rastogi, that we have to create multiple streams of income, because the standard 9 to 5 job is going to get disrupted very big time in the next couple of years. In fact, many people are already facing the heat as we speak now in 2025, because this layoff trend is continuing since the past 2.5 years, and I think even in 2025 this is going to continue. With more companies adopting AI, we will see more job losses, especially at the entry and the mid level. And this is going to create a lot of gaps for people who are graduating or who are early in their career. Even for senior people, they are cutting people off right now because there is just economic uncertainty. We don't know how long this uncertainty will go, because uh, Trump, after becoming president, has added more to this uncertainty. Rather than stabilizing the economy, he is pushing the economy towards a lot of uncertain future. So with that, I'll check out for today. It's already going to be 9 p.m. here in India. So thanks everyone for joining my podcast. We'll talk to you soon in next podcast. Till then, take care. Have a nice day.